I'm leaning in the bar stool. I can't drive this slow. Yeah, you know how it feels. But the road is made for the big and brave, and may the fellow with the best rig win. I'll brave the long, hard road and a highway patrol to hold you.
Now, broadcasting live from deep in the desert of Nevada, K-Coast Radio presents UFOTalkRadio.com with your host, Larry Glenn Anderson, Glenn Larry.
Hello, everybody. This is Glenn Larry, and we have a special show for today. Yes, our night broadcast. For those overseas, will probably get the night broadcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in to the LGA Broadcasting Networks. This is Glenn Larry. We are broadcasting deep in the desert of Nevada. On the dark Nevada. Now, actually, the lights are on, thank God. Very special show, as I promised you. We have Cathy Fitzgibbon, and it's Rudolph. Her book is called Paul Lynde, A Biography, His Life, His Love, and His Laughter. And she will correct me if I made anything wrong. Please do, Cathy. She'll be on in just a second. Stand by, everybody, for that fun ride, a real hoot, as I would say. Here is the book. You can see it right here. And we'll tell you where to get that book from also. And Cathy, are you there?
Yes, I am. How are you, Larry?
Oh, God bless you. Oh, you're in New York City, correct?
I'm on Long Island, about 45 minutes from New York City. Close enough.
God bless you. Gosh. Boy, we had you on, a couple years back, and Ani wasn't that good, but now it is. But I had so many people have asked me to have you back on again, and I go, God, please, hope she's not mad at me. But we did have.
I'm happy to be here.
Yes. Well, Paul Lynde would have been how old today?
He would have been 94, 95 in June.
Oh, my gosh. If you remember Paul Lynde, everybody.
38 years ago.
Paul Lynde from Bewitched and from Hollywood Squares. Bye Bye Birdie. And Cathy, when did you first meet Paul Lynde? What made it happen?
When I was 17. When I was 17 years old, I had a crush on Paul, and I just thought he was very handsome, very witty, very funny, and I wanted to meet him. I bet my high school teachers I'm going to meet him before I graduate high school.
Great.
Now, where the heck I said this and why I really was determined, I have no idea.
Love it.
But I went and did some research at my public library in Levittown, New York, where I grew up, and there was a book. And I had a full scrapbook about Paul Lynde. I knew a lot about him, but this particular book was back in the day when he was doing Broadway, New Faces of 52, and some very old stuff. But in there was like a resume of Paul Lynde, and it said Paul Lynde's business manager's phone number. I made a photocopy of it, took it home, and said to my parents, I would like to call this number and see if they can get a hold of Paul Lynde for me. And my parents said, make it person to person, because back then that was very expensive to call New York to California.
Oh, I bet.
And you're never going to answer. So they're not going to be spending a dime, they figured. Well, I do call the number and can't believe it, but Paul Lynde himself answers the phone. He can't believe a young girl fan found his phone number. I explained it was from the library. He was like devastated. And I just started talking to him about his shows, how much I admired him. He didn't hang up. Amazingly. And he listened, but he was a little cautious. And we were talking, and I said, I know you come to New York. Can you meet me? And he said, I can't meet you. I'd have to do this for everybody. And I'm thinking, well, not everybody found your home number. But okay. He says no. And then I talked to him some more about his dog and about his shows. And he was answering. I couldn't believe he was just answering my questions. And then for some reason, I blurted out, will you go to the senior prom with me? I can't believe I asked him.
Wow.
And he said, no way. And then he starts laughing in that voice, which you do well. And no way, Cathy. And then I think I kind of warmed down a little bit. I said, listen, I know you're coming to New York. Please, I just want to meet you 5 minutes. A picture and an autograph. I promise that's all I want from you. I'll have my father take me. And I think that's what made him calm. And he said, okay, 5 minutes only. I'll call you when I get to the pier in a couple of weeks. And he did. My dad and I take the train from Long Island into Manhattan. We get into Manhattan. We get over the Pier Hotel, and the Pier Hotel's on fire. And I'm supposed to meet Paul.
Oh, my
and they're
God.
not allowing any guests up or down.
Oh, my God.
The building's got firemen running through it. Flames. My dad's like, Cathy, we have to get out of here. And I said, no, I don't care if it burns down. I got to meet Paul Lynde. And then Paul walked in through the lobby, the circular doors that go round and round. And I see him walking in. And I said, oh, my God, there he is. And I ran over to him. And I said, hello, Mr. Lynde. I'm Cathy Fitzgibbon. At the time, Fitzgibbon. And he was very nice. And he said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm late. And he was only about 6 minutes late. He said, I wanted to shower before I met you. Very, very warm, very nice. He says, walk me over to the lobby. I want you to read my messages. I forgot my reading glasses. So I'm reading him all his messages. I'm in my glory. And then
you're the secretary already.
Where's your father? And he said, oh, he's in the lobby.
Yeah.
So my dad comes over and Paul says, let's get a drink. This is in the Pier Hotel.
Oh. We
go to get a drink. And the maitre d' says to Paul, now Paul spent, I think it was $6.50 a night back in 1976. He had a suite. That's a lot of money back then. It's even a lot of money today for a room in a hotel.
Oh, yeah.
But he had a nice suite. And they said to Paul, you can't come in here to have a drink because you don't have a tie on. I couldn't believe it. And Pauline goes, how do I get a tie when the room's on fire? There was a whole big 15, 16, a kitchen or something went on fire up there. So he was at the height of his career at that time. This was 1975, November.
Yeah, he was.
I'm 17 years old. He's, America's greatest comedian. He's winning these awards, Emmys. I can't believe he was bothering to meet me, but he did. And he said, let's go down to the Sherry Netherlands because we can't get a drink in here. He was pretty annoyed. And we went down there, and what was supposed to be a 5-minute conversation turned out to be over 2 hours, just talking about his life, his career, about me. Beautiful friendship was beginning.
Oh, beautiful. I met him back in the 80s on an airplane, and I got to sit next to him. Kind of wet. I wasn't supposed to be up there, but I was a good-looking kid in my day. I sat down and wouldn't mind to talk to him. And he's very, very polite, very sweet, just liked to laugh, and want to know more about me and what I was doing. I told my career and what have you. And I didn't do him then. I didn't do his voice. I was afraid to.
Oh, you should have. He would have loved it.
If
you're good, he loved it.
there was my master.
And you were good.
Oh, thank you. But anyway, there he was, and I didn't take a lot of his time because I knew he was tired, and he was heading back into Hollywood, and we were leaving from Seattle. I guess he has relatives up there or something. I don't know. He said he had a cousin or somebody.
His niece lived in there.
That's what it was.
His niece lived up there.
Yeah, and so I left him. And I went back to my little seat in the back of the plane, and he was just real nice to me, and I really enjoyed his company. And but then he got a little upset. Well, I could hear him up there screaming at this airline stewardess or purser or whatever, and he was just like, over the top. And of course, I stayed where I was at. I didn't want to see that side of him. I knew he had one, but I was not going to. I didn't want to see that because our time was good, so that was good. But that was the only time I could see him. And I had a friend that knew him in Los Angeles, and I was going to go down and head down there, but I did not. Something else came up or whatever. But your times with Paul Lynde. Tell me about the good times and tell me about the bad times. Because I believe it, through all the bad times, I still love him. And I think he was a fantastic man. But go ahead.
Oh, well, yes, I think we all have good and bad in all of us, and we try to be the best we can. But when Paul had too many drinks, as you saw on the plane yourself, he becomes belligerent and not very nice. And now I've never seen that side of him. When I've been with him and he was drinking, he just got more affectionate and more loving to me and more funny, and I had great times. However, and I know this because I did interview Cloris Leachman, Cheetah Rivera, Kate Ballard, Forrest Henderson, Peter Marshall gave me a nice photo for the book, but they all mentioned the funniest, but he could also not be so nice. Only when he was drinking. Otherwise, he was, pretty cool with people, and he loved his fans, and you could come up to him anytime. He'd give you the time in the world. He really lived for his fans. He really appreciated and would never turn anybody down. I mean, he used to stay 2 hours after the shows.
Let me run
sign autographs, and I'd be with him.
Let me run this real fast.
Is something you what?
Purchase.
Studies at the University of Wisconsin show that you'll probably live longer if you love only one man or woman at a time.
But it is all right to alternate. Living. What you say tempts me.
All-day bloodsucker.
Aren't you going to invite me to dinner? It's hard. I don't know. Prefer applause.
To see you again.
Yes, I love him. Go ahead, Cathy. I got to play it.
Oh, my goodness. And you know what? He was the most unique, and he was wanted in the 70s on every sitcom, you name it, right? You just named a few, but here you go. Hollywood Squares made him a household name. Let's go with that. But before that, Bye Bye Birdie as the father was great. Cheetah Rivera, I had interviewed her talking about the original Broadway play, and she said, Paul, when he got on stage, she never heard more laughter and applause ever than anybody else. She said he was beautiful. Just so funny. However, he was a perfectionist, and somebody once went off the timing and he would scream at them. He was very uptight. He was a perfectionist, and he would get a little nasty with everybody there. Kay Ballard loved him very, very much, but after a while she said, when he drank, he got nasty, and then after a while she just put him off. Cloris Leachman seemed to understand him more. They stayed friends forever because they met in Northwestern. And Paul and I had a great relationship in the beginning. He was very honest with me, very open with me.
Well, you were his pal.
And we had a lot of affection.
You were his pal. I mean, he thought a lot of you.
He enjoyed how much I cared for him, because when we were at the Sherry Netherlands, he wanted, he asked me about me. He said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be an author. And then he turned to my dad and said, well, what does she want from me? See, Paul had to be careful, as I think most famous people do. Are you there for his money? Are you trying to find out something about him? You don't know. And my dad just said, no, she's just a devoted fan.
Right.
Now, I really did want to be an author. I was, noticed in school by my English teachers that, they all said, we're going to see you published one day. I never knew at that time that 30 years later, I'd be writing his life story. It never, ever entered my mind. I just liked Paul in. We met. We had a lot of adventures together. We would go out dancing. And that's when I learned that Paul, I'll back up a little bit. In 1976, we had now met quite a few times, and we had a nice relationship, phone calls, and really, really growing a relationship. And he was coming to Westbury Music Fair, and he was on stage. And a lot of people talk about this on the shows I do, and they all ask me about this, so I'm going to bring it up anyway. So after the show, he was writing the autographs, and he had me come with him. Cathy, I'm right next, so sweet. And he would joke with people, and we were there for over 2 hours, and he would stay to the last person. But as he was doing this, he was drinking and drinking and drinking. But he was getting funnier through the night. This was a great night.
I know.
Then he would sing to me silly little love songs, I love you, and all that. And then we were I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but it was time for us to leave. We spent a lot of time together. I was at the pool with him the day before, and he knew that I had a big crush on him. He was aware of that.
Yeah.
Now it's time to leave, and my parents are in the audience. My friend Cathy, my sister Eileen, my sister Tricia take me. Anyway, Maureen, everybody in my family, and they're waiting for me because I'm saying goodbye to Paul. So I run over and I say, "Hey, goodbye, Paul. I'll see you soon." And then he leaned over and gave me the most longest, like a Scarlett O'Hara and Gone with the Wind kiss, like just unbelievable. And my mother was freaking out, and I couldn't believe it. And I thought, wow, he really, really cares back for me. So that's how we left. And of course, from there on, my crush intensified. Oh my God, I think he has affection for me. And then a year later, we were out somewhere, Virginia, I think it was. My girlfriend Barbara and I, we were meeting him after a show. We were with Liz Allen, and we went to a disco, and it was a great night. And Paul is dancing only with me, and there's a lot of men in this club, and I'm kind of naive at that time, not realizing, well, kind of realizing, but not being realistic to myself, because Paul's only dancing with me. We're slow dancing to, Donna Summer's The Last Dance. We're having a great night. And that's when I learned a little bit more about Paul. We were getting ready to leave. And the whole night, the waiter was, oh my goodness, Paul wanted a drink. He was the king there, got him everything. So now we're leaving. And we were going to go out. It was my birthday. So I figured we're going to still go out. It's after hours. Paul always likes partying. And I went over to Paul, and he said, "Good night, Cathy." And my jaw dropped. What does he mean? And then he walked out with our waiter. That's when I knew Paul was gay.
Yeah. Gosh. Well.
So my heart was crushed.
Oh, gosh. But you still loved him. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. The next day, he saw me, and I had my nose in the air because I was really hurt. And then he said, we were hanging out in the back of the backstage with but the cast and everything. And I was being very quiet, and Paul would be like, "What's the matter, Cathy?" And I'd be like, "Nothing." I don't know where I got the attitude from. And then he turned around and he said, "You know what? This is in front of everybody. You know what, everyone? Last night, the waiter stole my watch. And I know my Cathy would have never done that." And that's all he had to say. I forgave him, and I understood him. And we just continued a friendship.
Oh, great.
And it was great.
Great. What type of drink did he drink? I mean, what was his favorite drink? Vodka? Oh.
Vodka. Vodka. And he also drank Tab.
Tab. Yeah, it was big back then. Yeah. He smoked quite a bit too, huh?
Oh, yeah. He was a heavy smoker. He used to joke that he could smoke in the shower. He figured out how to do that. I mean, he was never that hungry. Except on stage. Even on stage, though, actually, some of the time, could smoke. Matter of fact, in Westbury, I remember he lit one up on stage and laughed at everybody. Said, "I can smoke and you can't."
Tell me about his dog.
Well, the first dog was Harry that he had for 15 years.
He died, and that really tore him up. He died, right?
Pardon?
Tore him up when he died.
Yes, Harry died around 77, I think,
right
before I went out to see Paul at his house. And Paul was very down about that. That was the love of his life, as Paul would say. He was the best friend, and that dog went everywhere. Got limousine rides. Used to go make an appearance on the Paul and Comedy Hour or a show that he was doing. The dog was his life, and that's how when I first made that phone call, I talked about his dog, which was the key to his heart, because he just kept him on the phone, and he loved hearing about what I thought about his dog. And his dog was in shows and ribbons, and when the dog died, Paul was really, really crushed and very lonely because he only lived with his dog.
Yeah, I know he did. He was a very lonely man.
No, the dog was Harry McAfee, named after his part
movie.
Bye Bye Birdie.
Yeah. I think that's so cool. God, now everybody asked me, did he ever do a serious part? I said, well, yes. He did a couple back in the day, there was a detective movie or something that he did. And
Cable Roberts.
Yeah,
he was on that. He did two shows, serious roles, and he loved it. And he was telling Kay Ballard, "Oh my God, this is what I want to do." And she said, "Paul, you're out of your mind. People know you for your comedy, for your voice. That's how they know you. Why would you try to change it?" But he didn't want to hear that, and that became his heartbreak for the rest of his life. He still dreamed that someone would take him serious and give him a very serious role.
Would
and he always wanted to be in a very important movie.
He was a star, but he wanted to be a movie star. Like,
a big difference in those days. Exactly.
And I don't think we realize, my audience doesn't realize that, but it was a big difference. And you're in this category or you're in this category. And he wanted to move through that. And, as we all
Yep.
know, Paul was a poor man. I mean, when he went through acting school and all through his life, his dad, was his dad a butcher, or what was his dad?
His dad originally was a sheriff for the town
Right.
of Knox in Mount Vernon, Ohio. He was the sheriff first, and they didn't have a lot of money, but one of the perks of being the sheriff was you got to have the apartment. I believe it was over or right next to the jailhouse.
Okay.
So Paul lived there for a couple of years. Paul used to joke, I grew up in a prison. And then after the sheriff's job, he opened up Lynde's meat market.
Right.
And that became successful.
Good.
There were a family of 8, 6 kids and the parents. So, they ate a lot. And Paul always said, that's where he ballooned, 260 pounds. He was over 200 something as a young kid.
Right.
Got appendicitis, almost died. And then his mother kept feeding him.
Yeah.
And then he couldn't even stand up after a year. So he went up and down. But later on, he did get control of his weight and became a very beautiful, slim man.
Yeah. Weight was always a problem with him, correct?
Yes, he had to watch his weight for the rest of his life. But before he passed this world, he promised he would never go over 200 pounds again, and he never did.
Oh, great. That's good.
But he tried everything. Weight Watchers, he had a personal trainer. He used to joke, him and Kay together used to joke that, they looked at a menu and they gained 10 pounds.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
his metabolism was. He loved junk food, but he
Yeah.
learned not to do all that, and he really looked great. As he
Right.
got older, he actually looked better and better to me.
Yeah, I think he's a handsome man myself. So here he is. Now he's in acting school, doing some little slight stuff on Broadway. And where was the time where I heard that he would go into the refrigerator at the dorm where he stayed? And
Oh my goodness.
tell me the story.
He had a house. Yeah, he had he lived in a building with Wally Clark, Marlon Brando, and some other, we'll call them starving actors at the time. And they all shared a commune refrigerator out in the hall.
Uh-huh.
And Paul, like all of them, were hungry. And Paul used to go in the refrigerator. He admitted it. And he said, I used to go in there and take food. And one day he opened up the refrigerator and there was a note that said, go ahead, Paul, pick anything you want. One of them is poison. He was flawed. That's horrible.
Yeah, God. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Do you remember the one he does about the jungle when his wife goes into the jungle and loses
The
his
African monologue.
Yes, I love that. And I will have to learn that because I would love to do that on stage. It's hilarious.
Oh, that would be great. It's so unique. It's dark humor, as you know.
Yes.
And it was in 1952 that he did that. And Jack Benny told him, you're very funny, but your humor, people don't get it. In years from now, they will. But be patient, because he did get noticed, though. And that's how, they wrote him up, I think, Variety and some things. They noticed him at, you only got picked in Faces of 52, kind of like The Voice these days or American Idol.
Right.
Where you go on and then only some of you make it.
Right.
Well, once they noticed him, in 1952, he was in the paper. Paul was so excited. He thought for sure this is going to boost his career. Nothing happened again for 9 years until they called him in to do the Broadway play Bye Bye Birdie.
Oh, God.
Which then made him famous.
Yeah.
That's a long time to be patient.
Well,
in the meantime, his mother died. His father died.
Yeah. Now, he had a brother, correct?
Brother died too. We
Yep.
had several brothers, but the oldest brother had gone to the war, off to war, Battle of the Bulge, and he was missing for 9 years. And then they found his remains. And after they buried his remains, when they were being shipped back, his mother had a heart attack and she died. And then the day after they buried the remains, Paul's father died of a heart attack. Unbelievable. Well, 3 months, he lost 3 family members. That's really tragic.
Now, what about his friend that fell out the window?
Oh, that was a young man, Davidson, I believe.
Yeah, he was an actor.
They went to, I think it was the Surgery Hotel in San Francisco, if I'm remembering
Yeah,
correctly.
I think so, yeah.
Paul and him had gone out. They had been drinking, and Paul came back to the room ahead of his friend, and his friend came in later. But I understand from research and old newspapers that his friend was making a ruckus in the hall, then finally went in, and a few minutes later, you know, Paul and I have talked about it. We just touched on it a little bit. He still got upset many years later about it. He would say to me, Cathy, I can't believe what happened. His friend went out to the balcony, and Paul said he was doing some kind of a trick, and he ended up slipping, hanging, and Paul ran over and tried to grab him with his wrist and couldn't pull him up, and the guy fell, I think it was 7 or 8 floors to his death.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah. Unbelievable. My gosh. You know, stars, everybody has tragedy and things happen in your lives that are just terrible. And of course that's life. But it's just sad that people go through certain things that really, I mean, it's over the top bad. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And there was a period there where Paul had that happen to him. And he had a lot of deep sorrow, as I could see, viewing this gentleman. You know him better than I do, but I could see a lot of sorrow, deep sorrow. And then with that covering up the drinking or what have you, and in and out, he was a very unique person. And but I could just, I mean, the deep sorrow is what gets me, because that's, and then the non-trust with people, because when you're hurt so many times by people, because you're up there. My dad was the same way. He didn't trust anybody. It's sad. And then you try to heal that, but who's the next one to come by to take me or hurt me? And how did I open up? Well, he opened up with you. I think that's fantastic. And your book is incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, all the details are in the book, a little bit more about how, you know, our relationship is. But the rest of the book is about his life from birth all the way until his last days, and his career, and his famous recipes are in there. And the interviews were very interesting. How, you know, I learned how each person connected with Paul differently than me. Of course, we all have different relationships with each other. And just amazing to hear their stories about Paul, and, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's all in the book. But some are hysterically funny. You know, he used to hang out with Bill Asher, and they'd go out and they'd drink. And Bill Asher always had to, not always, but often had to, you know, stop Paul from ending up, you know, really getting into a fight with somebody, or bail him out of jail a few times.
Oh, I know.
You know, Paul was a wild man. He was, you know, he loved to party, but he lost control, and then he would get in trouble. And, you know, he could still make us laugh every day. And I don't think he appreciated that. He was really born, to me anyway, to make us laugh. That was his gift.
Yes.
That was his talent. To
Yes.
make everybody laugh.
Especially that laugh. You ready? You're killing me. Yeah, it's
that is good.
Thank
That's
you.
Excellent.
I love the man. I was known as Paul Lynde through school when I was in high school, and did the voices. In fact, I was in a play. Excuse me, I was in a play called The Agony. It's a real serious Easter thing, when, you know, Jesus on the cross, and, you know, only part I could get that nobody wanted was Judas. And oh
wow,
I was so nervous, you know. I mean, I just slipped into him. I just was there, and I'm going out on stage going, Master, where are you? It's Judas, your beloved disciple. You know, and it was so serious play. The whole play just cracked up laughing hysterically, because, oh my God. And I looked over at the producer. He's fainted on the floor. His big, huge mother's trying to wake him up. It was terrible, popping pills in his mouth. Oh my God. So that was kind of the end of that one. But
made a heavy scene writer.
and he hit the papers that, you know, Anderson turns play into, as Paul Lynde. And God, that was just, anyway, I knew that I do 150 voices, and I knew that I had something there. But when I do Paul, I'm working on a new thing, and it is called Paul's Place. And there'll be little snippets I'm going to put on Facebook. But Paul Lynde will be the bartender, and I'll do the makeup and whatever, and hopefully have enough hair to pull it off. But it's going to be fun, and I just that you see it, and if you would endorse it, it'd be cool. If you like it, whatever. But
I'll love it. I'm sure.
anything,
Sounds like a lot of fun.
it's going to be. But let's talk more about your book. Get off of me. You're okay. Is there anybody right now living right now? I've got a little thing coming up on the screen here. Any of Paul Lynde's family alive at all?
Just his nieces. His mother and father died. Like I said, all his sisters have passed. All his brothers. I think they're all gone. Johnny died very young in a car accident in his 30s. I think he had an accident, and then he was in the hospital for like a year, and then he passed on. I think they're all gone. The relatives I speak to, that's his nieces. One in particular I'm in touch with. And then he has some great nieces, and that's it. But there's no siblings left or parents.
Wow. Yeah. Gosh. Now, there was a guy that was doing Paul on stage. I think his name was Paul too. I don't know. But I had done a show in Las Vegas, entertainment voice show, and he had gotten upset that I was doing Paul in my monologue, and he said he was the only one person who had the rights to do it, and blah blah blah. Right. I don't know. Does anybody have the rights to do Paul in or do Paul in? I don't know. I think that
he's a public figure, so I don't know how that works. I think from what I think I know, if you're a public figure, I think you're up for grabs.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you're a public figure. So
right.
I don't know enough about these.
And he's no longer here, but I mean,
public figure is a public figure.
Right. So we're going to go on with it anyway, but I'm going to have a lot of fun with this, and it'll be a tribute to Paul on these things. And we really want to push your book, and we're going to put your book on our websites, and I have many of them. And anybody that
thank you,
Cathy, can you tell everybody how to get this book and how to get an autograph book?
Well, with the pandemic, I stopped doing the autograph books. What I can do is, if you buy the book and let me know it's on Amazon, there's an audio, there's an ebook, there's a soft cover, and there's a hard cover. And whichever one, the books, if you do buy the book, what I do is, if you send me your address, I have a Facebook page, Paul Lynde, and then you got to put the colon, a biography, his life, his love, and his laughter. And you can just let me know, and then I do mail you. I have a simulation of the book, and then I'll sign that and I'll send it in if anybody wants that.
Right.
Pretty much right now, I'm just keeping it. It's doing very well on Amazon, so that's the best place.
I have the hard copy here, and
oh, good.
It's very well done. Yeah.
Thank you.
And folks, let me tell you something. It's very well made, and the pictures are great and bright. You can see what's going on. I'm going to open it up to you, but I'm showed them the cover and the back of it, and it's a nice read, and a very simple, enjoyable read. You will be laughing. You will be getting.
Pictures are unique. They're rare.
Like I say, you will be getting a hoot out of this one. Anyway, let's go back into Paul. Okay, now he didn't play any sports at all, but he was in Cub Scouts, right?
Oh my goodness, he was in the Boy Scouts, and he used to say he looked like Ethel Merman because he was a chubby little kid. He was just so funny. Yeah, he would just do that. He wasn't into sports. He worked out. That was it. But that was to keep his weight off. That was pretty. He went jogging a lot.
Yeah, boy. I know towards his later life, he liked to do a lot of hiking around the beaches and stuff.
Oh, he loved that. Absolutely. Matter of fact, he went the last vacation that I know of, he went to Florida sometimes, and he liked to go into Vegas once in a while. But he did go to Maine. What is it called? Quint. I can't even pronounce it. But he spent his last summer there. He went up there to just figure out his life. He had quit Hollywood Squares. Then he went back on Hollywood Squares because, no one was calling him. He wanted to be, as we discussed earlier, a movie star. But back then, in those days, if you were on TV, you'd never get to be in the movie. So Paul figured he'll quit Hollywood Squares. He'll stay off the tube. He's on everything. I Dream of Jeannie, Munsters, Mother-in-Laws, you name the shows, F Troop, everything. The hottest. He was on the TV all the time. And he thought maybe it's too much exposure. Then nothing happened. So he went back to Squares with a better deal because they did work it out with him.
Yeah.
But after a year, he had moved to Vegas, if you recall. They closed the show. That's it. They weren't renewing it.
They're at the Riviera,
now
right?
Paul has nothing to do. Exactly. Yes. And Paul had nothing. Nobody was responding. A couple of appearances on shows that was always open to him. And then he went to Maine. And while he was there, he met a photographer, Daphne Wells Nichols. Now, she was the one who was sweet enough to give me the picture for the cover of the book. Paul had said, because she had met him, he passed by, she said, why don't you come in and get your photograph here?
Right.
And Paul said, oh, I need a haircut. I don't have the right clothes. He went out the next day, went to LLB, bought a sweatshirt, bought, rain boots, those big fisherman type boots, and got his haircut and went back and said, go ahead, let's do a shoot. So Daphne took over 100 pictures that day on the beach. He saw his fans, and she was like, what do you want to do? He said, that's my public. He went over, said hello to everybody, because that was Paul. He loved his fans. He appreciated that they appreciated him. She took all the pictures, and then when she sent it to him, he told her, you captured me the way I want to be remembered.
Great.
Well, I remembered that when I was doing the book, and I could have went with the Hollywood Squares, which he was famous for, or a funny face picture. But since he said that, I called her up and I said, would you allow me to use one of your photos, since that's how Paul wants to be remembered? She said, you sure can. So I have a couple of hers in the book from that day, the shooting in the Maine on the boat with his dog, not the boat, the buoys in the water.
Right.
And then she gave me the nice photo there. So I'm grateful for her, because I chose that only because Paul said that. If that's the way he wanted to be remembered, then I wanted to do something that he would have liked. So
I think it's fantastic.
I did that because, like Paul said, all my pictures are with ties and suits. They're so stiff, and this is more casual. So I went with that.
Done. And they're great. They're great in the book. I'm a fan. I'm looking at them right now. I love it.
Rare pictures. I mean, his family, his estate was so sweet to me. They gave me all these pictures to use. I have my handwritten letters from Paul.
Yeah.
I put them in the book, and then some really unique pictures from his high school, graduate, college. Bye Bye Birdie, Sony, whoever owns those photos also let me use them. So it really came together nice, all the interviews, and it's to honor Paul. The whole beginning, like I said, is about my relationship with him. And then the rest of the book is his,
Right.
all about him as a little boy, right through his career till the day he passed on.
How did you like Peter Marshall?
I love Peter Marshall. He's such a good man. He was so sweet. We had a nice conversation. And I, said, would you want to give me your forward? And he did. And I thought that was so cool. He said, him and Paul were not pals. They didn't pal around at all. One time, because Paul did lavish dinner parties almost every Saturday night, quite often. And he finally did invite Peter. And then Peter couldn't make it. He said Paul got all huffy. He had something to do with one of his children, I think, that day, Peter did.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the only time. So Paul never invited him again, but that was fine. But, they had it very cordial. Peter understood Paul. He got him. I mean, he thought Paul was very unique, which he was.
Right.
And but I thought.
And that's a real special thing, because us as entertainers, I know for myself, there are people, they think they know me, but they don't know me. They don't know the real side of Larry Glenn Anderson,
Mm-hmm.
Glenn Larry. You know, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm complicated, and I agree that I am. But I always look for the good side in people. And I got to be careful. Um, I've learned that. God, I'm 64 years old. I should learn
Mm-hmm.
something. But no,
Age of wisdom.
yeah, boy, I tell you, yeah. But God willing, everything's been good, and I thank everybody for it's been my fans and my folks have seen me through the years as an entertainer, and I thank them for that. But and I've turned to radio because I get to interview people like you that spent the time with a beautiful man named Paul Lynde, and knew his heart. And just like Peter said, he got Paul. You got Paul. You knew Paul.
Mm-hmm.
There is always a special part of, well, like with Michael Jackson. I met and knew Michael Jackson and worked for him, and I got him. I got the understanding about a soul that when you connect with people, and I've connected with several people, don't have to be people big name, what have you, but when you connect with people and you really get them, that's a real prize. That's a real gift. That's a real special bond of love that you be able to have, because there's so much out there in people's makeup and how they are to reach that depth of that person. That's important, folks. And Cathy's done that. And you'll see this in this book.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. That's an excellent point. You can't judge people. You can't
No.
listen to everything on the news. You can't.
No.
You gotta. If you can connect and look into their eyes and go deep into their soul, you'll see maybe why they are sad, why they are bitter, or their life. And you look back and you say, my goodness, you don't even know how they could handle so many things that went wrong. And then you see their gifts and their talents, and you see people. I think people generally want to be good.
I do too.
I think, I believe that most people anyway. I hope so.
And we all make
Oh,
mistakes.
that's what you strive for.
Hello, what the heck?
Oh, we all do, for sure.
But there's a goodness, and if we can just keep those thoughts, and I have some really different shows and fun people call up. We've got some wacky callers too, but that's all fun. And we built this show to have this, folks, and to be able to go on this side away from the ghost and the UFOs, the phenomena, to have more of this biography type of interviews with guests. We're going to sway that way because we have Star Talk out there. It's what's called Star Talk, and it's part of the LJ broadcasting networks, and folks, you get more of that. Cathy, going back to Paul again, in his time when he was on Broadway, did he find it hard to relate with his fellow actors? As I know when people forget lines, or when they're supposed to be timing, what have you, got upset. Was it to the point where maybe certain people were afraid to work with him at times?
Oh yeah, people. Yes, some people hesitate. Oh no, Paul Lynde's going to be here, but he did bring in money for the show. He was a headline. He got orders. He got viewers. This is what it's all about. Yeah. And there were some people that loved to work with Paul. And on Hollywood Square, same thing. The guest in there. I'm sure Peter rolled his eyes when he saw Paul was going to be a little bit, not too nice to the new person sitting next to him in the square. And then there were other ones like the Lennon sisters, Karen Valentine. Oh my gosh, he loved being with them and had a ball with them. It depends on who they were and how they connected. And
how many hours?
People everywhere.
How many hours a day do they do Hollywood Squares?
Hollywood Squares. They taped, I believe, 5 shows in a day. So they would all bring like different tops, and some of them used to come in with gowns and things, and then all the regulars like Rosemary and Paul Lynde and George Gobel would say to them, guys, they're only going to see you from your belly up. So you can wear jeans, you can wear shorts. Nobody's going to see that, and that's all you're wearing. So just bring 5 different shirts because that's all we're going to see. So
right.
That's how they taped it in one day. Pretty cool.
Now, was it their own wardrobe, or was somebody sponsoring their clothing?
No, I believe they all wore their own
stuff.
excuse me. I believe they all wore their own clothing.
Now on Bewitched,
and Paul had some great shirts.
Oh, I know he did. My God. On Bewitched, I noticed that there's a wardrobe company that would supply the wardrobe, but it would be a company loco, men's warehouse, men's what have you shop. Like the pants were furnished by such and such, such and such. Did Paul Lynde get that type of treatment also?
Not to my knowledge. I think all his clothes were his own. I mean, if he went on a show like Donnie Marie and he had to wear a costume, of course that was, given to him.
Wardrobe,
but,
yeah.
I think his wardrobe was his own. I don't know. Whenever I seen him, his clothes were his own.
Did he like Donnie Marie?
Even when he went on stage.
Did he like Donnie Marie?
He liked doing the show because he used to tell me, Cathy, I have to stay in with the younger generation. See, as you get older, as you know, all actors and celebrities know, you're going to lose your audience and you're going to lose your offers if you're not in with the next generation, because the next generation is moving on,
right,
or dying out, or whatever it is.
I don't know where his mind's at.
Yeah.
Good.
That was key to Paul. But he did Charlotte's Web, and there's a whole new generation. When I do book signings, some people, most of them, if they're over 40 or 45 even these days, know Paul Lynde. Oh my God, Hollywood Squares, Bewitched, they'll rattle everything off.
Yeah.
And then you have the other people that's with them, their children, and they say, wait a minute, I don't know if I know him. And I'll say Charlotte's Web, and they say, The Rat. I know his voice. I know who he is. And that was the next generation. So we still got to be with that because of Charlotte's Web. That was a great movie. And he was outstanding as Templeton the Rat.
Right. I'm going to open, I like you just said, I've had people, I said, do you remember Paul Lynde? The guy goes, Paul Lynde. I go, come on, you don't know who Paul Lynde is? And, you feel like, whoa, we're got a load here, Larry. What happened to what happened in the last 40 years? Where did it go? Type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Gosh. I'm going to open.
Well, here's the thing. And
go ahead. Finish. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, they're now showing the Paul Lynde show on Antenna TV, and on the older shows, you have the reruns of Bewitched and other shows. So all you have to do, especially you, Larry, is just imitate his voice. And people like, I know. They didn't know his name, but they know his voice.
That's right. And they do recognize it so much. Let me go to get some numbers out here so we can get some callers calling in here.
To call UFO Talk Radio, the Glenn Larry Show, deep in the dark desert of Nevada, call 702-874-1114. North of the Rockies, call 702-874-1114. West of the Rockies, call 702-874-1114. And south of the Rockies, call 702-874-1114. And east of the Rockies, call 702-874-1114. First time callers, call 702-874-1114. And if you just want to talk to the Glenn Larry Show, call 702-874-1114.
Oh, yes, we are live, everybody. And Paul Lynde, Uncle Arthur and Bewitched. You remember him. Come on. Yes, he was fantastic. A biography done by one of his dear friends. Cathy, Rudolph, actually her middle name before that, it was Fitzgibbon. Is that right, Cathy? Hope I'm saying that.
That's my maiden name.
That's your maiden name, and it's Rudolph as your last now. Clear this off here. It's my bumper music there. Yes, what a fantastic book. And the lines are open, of course, 111, 1113, and 1114, by the way. I kind of thought it was kind of a funny thing I just put out there for the phone numbers. I do that. It's like the Art Bell thing, the guy that gives all the numbers east of the Rockies, So I thought I'd just, I have one line. So why not just let that happen? It's been quite a fun thing for everybody. But we do have several lines here, by the way. I'm talking to her on Skype right now. But you can call on 702-874-1113 also, or 1114, and ask Cathy questions about the book and about Paul Lynde. Lines are open if you'd like to call. It's up to you, but I am going to carry on my conversation with Cathy. Do you remember Paul singing at all?
Singing?
Yeah.
He sang to me.
What type of music?
He sang to me. He sang.
What type of music did he like?
Well, he listened to he liked rock. He liked Cher. He liked opera when he was having a nice dinner.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty diversified. When we went out in the car, we always had rock on. And when he was with me one time in Westbury Music Fair in front of everybody, he was singing the Paul McCartney silly little love song, "I Love You" to me, which is very sweet, serenading me. I was on my glory. That was a beautiful moment.
Oh, it's
and
beautiful.
Of course he sang Kids, and when he did the Paul Lynde tour in Westbury, and he did the song Kids, he kind of directed it towards me, the whole song. So fun times.
Yeah, my gosh, I'll tell you. Now, what favorite dish did you like that he had cooked for you? What was the favorite dish that Paul Lynde had?
Well, when I went to see Paul at his home,
mm-hmm.
He was disappointed because the week I picked to come there, he had just moved into his new home in Beverly Hills. He was living in Los Angeles in that big mansion that used to be owned by Errol Flynn.
Right.
That he bought for, I think, his ex-wife. Paul bought that house, beautiful. I didn't get to see that house. I got to see his second house. And Paul said, "I can't believe you're here. I want you to see," because he had a lavish home, antiques and furniture.
Yeah.
And at that age, I was now, 19. I didn't really care about that stuff. I wanted to just be with Paul. I couldn't care. So the whole house is filled with boxes, and there's nothing out. And he had beautiful pictures and photos. And he was taking a little tour through the house, showing me and some of my friends the house. And as we get through his bedroom, he only had a bed, a dresser, and a TV because he was still in the midst of moving.
Uh-huh.
But the only picture in the house was one of me and him, an 8x10 on his dresser. And I was so touched.
My gosh.
That was there.
Yes.
So we ended up going out to eat. He liked Chinese. We did Chinese. He liked Mexican. I mean, he liked anything really. He was pretty.
Right.
He had a good appetite.
Oh boy. The gourmet food he cooked? He had his own recipes. Now, what was his favorite dish?
He had the beef stew, which I put in my book. And
Yeah.
he also made a great millionaire salad that he loved to do, that he learned from one of his churches growing up. So he had some good recipes.
Okay.
I think he called it stew a la Lynde. So funny.
Okay. Now we have a caller. Caller, you're talking to Cathy on the line. Caller, what's your name and where are you from?
I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada. And my name is Francis. And I'm listening to the show. It's a fabulous show. How are you today? Can you hear me?
Well, how are you, Francis? Now I can. Yes. Hi. How are you doing?
Very good. I was on a highway. And it was so loud driving. I had to get off the highway so I could call. Otherwise, I was going to call 10 minutes sooner. But the show is great. And Paul Lynde, I loved growing up with him. He was just fabulous. It was such a shame when he was gone. He was one of the funniest men that was on television. No matter, he just had a way about him. He was very spontaneous, kind of like Larry is. the fella you're doing the show with, very spontaneous, and he is. He truly is. And that's a gift God gives you. And it truly is a gift.
I agree.
And so
I'm glad you enjoyed him.
Are you in New York City or just New York?
I'm in Long Island, about an hour to New York City. I'm out in the suburbs.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Better than being in New York City right now. for sure. You know, from what I see
yeah,
on
that's
television,
very
you
sad
know.
right now. Yeah, there's not
Yeah,
nothing there. Everything's
no,
closed up.
sad,
Very, very
sad.
sad.
So how's everything going with the book that you have? Or maybe you could do some kind of a movie would be good, or a TV sitcom again.
There
you know,
might be a movie. There might be a movie coming out next year. We'll see.
God, let me play the part as Paul Lynde.
Okay. I don't think I have any control who plays who, but
I know.
we'll see. That might be happening. But you're right. Paul Lynde was wonderful, very talented. I'm glad you liked him so much, Francis. That's sweet. He loved hearing this. He was your thing. Be very touched.
Unbelievable. And you know, he was the best on the squares, the Hollywood squares. Nobody was as funny as him. He was so spontaneous. You know, when they would ask a question, he just had that answer right away, you know. And it was always funny. It was a funny answer. It wasn't like something that wasn't so funny. I mean, it was just, it would make you crack you up, you know. And that was
yeah, they would ask him great questions like, you know, if you're on a boat and somebody falls over a man, what do you yell? And they would say, you know, man overboard. And then they asked Paul, what do you do, or what do you say when a woman falls overboard? And Paul would say, full speed ahead. I love that one. Love that one.
That's great.
Yeah, that was him. So are you going to be able to stay for a while longer on the show this afternoon, or you got to go?
We've got probably about 9-10 minutes more to go, and but we're going to hopefully, if Cathy will come back on the show, I'd love to have her here again.
Sure.
And Cathy, do me a favor, tell them once again where they can buy your book.
You can get it on Amazon, and if you're someone who doesn't go on the computer, because you know I know different ages. We know, like my dad doesn't have a computer. Barnes and Noble will order it for you. You'd have to call up and request it. But there's a hard copy, a soft copy. There's an audio book and an ebook, and it's all on Amazon. And I hope everybody who reads it enjoys it. And then, if you don't mind, anybody who does buy the book and reads it, can you please put a review up on Amazon? That always is nice for me.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
you got
100 stars from me. I'll tell you right now.
Thank you.
I read the book. I love the book, and I love Paul Lynde, as you all know.
Well, nobody does Paul Lynde like you in town here, Larry. That's for sure. Or anywhere else. I've never heard anybody do it as well as you. You sound just like him. You do. I mean, you
got him down pretty doggone pat.
Yeah. Well, that's a great compliment from both of you, especially you, Cathy. I really do appreciate that. And but folks, I gotta tell you, if get it for a birthday present, or anybody that loves Paul Lynde, I got the book right here in front of me. I'm showing it to you on Facebook, and I do ask you to buy this book, enjoy the book, because you're going to get a lot of laughs out of this book, and you're going to see this kind of a side of Paul, which more funny than some things you've not thought of seeing, trust me. And to have a personal friend that knew him and spent a lot of time with him, that's great. Francis, did you ever see Paul Lynde in person?
No, I never did. Unfortunately, I never did. Only on TV, and but it was enjoyable every time I ever saw him. I mean, he was just, in the TV shows that he was in, and the movies. He was in quite a few movies also.
Oh yeah.
And
he did 11 movies. Yes.
That was a lot. I didn't know he did that many, but I knew he was in quite a few of them.
Yeah, he was in Yum Yum Tree, Glass Bottom Boat.
Yeah.
So many.
Funny man.
Yeah.
And well, I think he enjoyed his life. I think Paul Lynde enjoyed his life. You know, I don't know how he passed away. I mean, I don't know anything about that, but I hope it wasn't.
He had a heart attack in his head.
Is that what it was? He had a heart attack and passed away.
Now, was he in bed or by the pool?
No, he was in bed.
And
his friends came to the house because he was supposed to show up at a party, and when he didn't, they went to check on him, and they had a break in, and he was in his bed.
That's a shame.
He had a heart attack.
That's a shame.
Yeah, well.
And today is the anniversary. Today is the anniversary of his passing.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
That's why I'm here.
Yep, that's why
well,
I planned.
God bless both of you. Very nice. And you're looking down and he's probably cracking jokes about you too.
I hope he's smiling.
I'm sure he is. I'm sure he is.
I love him dearly. Listen, Cathy, thank you so very much. And Fran,
Yes.
thank you for calling. I'll get back with you, Fran. Thanks so very much. And Cathy, I got to say, sincerely, thank you for what you've done for Paul Lynde. Thank you for letting the readers know what his life's all about. Like I say, people don't know people as well as people would like to be known. And yeah, thank you so very much. And folks, get the book.
Larry, thank you for having me.
Yes, my
Thank
pleasure.
you for having me, and you make me smile when you do his voice. It brings back good memories. So pretty cool. Thank you. You did a great show, and I enjoyed being here.
Well, God bless you and be well. And we will be in contact. I promise you. All right, kid?
Thank you. God bless and be safe, everybody. Please be safe. And it's tough to be inside, but if you want to really something different, if you like Paul Lynde, read the book. Something to do during a pandemic.
You betcha. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Larry.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Yes.
Be well.
Oh, how exciting, huh? There you go. Right from my studios, and a special show for today. So pass it on, everybody. And I did this on purpose because I wanted to make sure that you all knew the great Paul Lynde, and cool memories, and a gal that knew him dearly and, well, wrote a fantastic book, and it's got to be out, and I want you all to get it. Please. I loved it. It's a fun read. Trust me. Good night.